Part 20. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 194. After passing the dead forest, a tragic scene appeared in front of Yejing. In an open space, no, it was not an open space. All the dead trees around were broken, and the broken gray branches were swept on the ground. On the ground, 7 or 8 boys and girls were lying in a mess, with blood all over the ground, and even limbs could be seen. Some of the people lying on the ground had their eyes dull and no breath, and some were struggling in pain, but they were covered with wounds and couldn't even get up. In the open space, there were still a few boys holding swords, trembling all over and facing the huge monster in front of them, exuding fear from head to toe. Within sight, there was only one monster, a demon ape that was 4 or 5 meters tall and extremely strong. This demon ape was tall and mighty, and had 4 arms, blood-red and brutal pupils comparable to the size of fists, and 2 blood-stained fangs were mostly exposed outside the mouth. Yejing originally thought that it was a group of adult practitioners fighting, but when he arrived, he didn't expect that it was actually a group of children who were not even older than him. These children were only 16 or 17 years old at most. How could they run to such a dangerous place? There was no time to think about it. Yejing drew his sword without hesitation and rushed forward. His figure rolled up the sand and dust, and rushed towards the demon ape like a sharp sword. The few people who were still standing saw that help had arrived, and they immediately showed joy on their faces, but when they saw that it was people of the same age as them, they showed despair again. Be careful. This is a 4-armed demon ape of the earth level, one of the young men warned with fear on his face. Earth level? Just use it to test the sword. Yejing didn't even pause for a moment. When he saw that the 4-armed demon ape's fangs were still holding bright red flesh and blood, his eyes revealed a strong murderous intent. Only a few dozen meters away, Yejing rushed to the front of the 4-armed demon ape in a few breaths, his legs burst out with strength, he suddenly jumped up, and chopped at the demon ape's arm. The extremely sharp golden knife chopped on the demon ape's arm, just like chopping on glass, very easily, without even a trace of obstruction, and with one knife, one of the demon ape's arms was directly cut off. Roar! The severe pain made the demon ape scream in pain, and swung his furious arm and slammed into Yejing's thin body. The demon ape moved very quickly, and its speed was completely inconsistent with his body size. The demon ape was fast, but Yejing was faster. Before the thick arm touched Yejing, Yejing dodged and rushed to the side of the demon ape's body. Boom! With a deep sound, the demon ape's attack smashed a deep pit in the ground, shaking the nearby area for a few times. What a terrifying power! Yejing, who had looked down on the demon ape, was shocked when he saw the marks on the ground. If he was hit like this, he would probably even have his supernatural physique knocked out. As expected of a ground-level demon beast, it still has some strength. However, if it is just powerful, it will not be a threat to me. A fierce light flashed in Yejing's eyes, and a ferocious look appeared on his handsome face. He exerted force with both arms, and veins popped out. The aura that was almost pure white flowed instantly, and in an instant, it wrapped the golden knife. Draw the knife. Whoosh! A golden light flashed by. 1 second. 1 breath. A blink of an eye. Yejing held the golden knife in one hand, and all his strength poured into his palm. He suddenly threw the golden knife out, and its speed was comparable to lightning. The extremely sharp golden knife flashed only for a moment, and at a speed close to the speed of sound, it drew a golden light phantom and chopped the waist of the demon ape. Then, the whole action was completed in an instant, and it was invisible to the naked eye. There was only a golden light flashing. Huh! Yejing exhaled slightly, and after retracting the golden knife, he stopped moving. From the moment the golden knife crossed the body of the demon ape, he knew the ending. There was a slight pause. The body of the demon ape froze directly and stayed in place. A second later, 1 or 10 blood columns gushed out from the waist of the demon ape, and a straight knife mark suddenly appeared. Then, the entire upper body of the demon ape slowly tilted backwards and fell to the ground with a bang. This huge demon ape was directly cut off by Yejing's lazy waist. There were no gorgeous movements, no fancy moves, just wrapped in aura, gathering the power of the whole body, and with the peerless golden knife, it was killed in one knife. The demon ape that was directly cut in half made several young men holding swords standing in the distance stunned, with a confused and sluggish face, not knowing what happened. "What's going on?" one of them hesitated and asked in confusion. Next to him, another young man shook his head blankly, looking at the demon ape lying on the ground with his eyes wide open. "I saw a flash of golden light, and the four-armed demon ape died. So strong. This is a ground-level demon beast, not that great." After Yejing exhaled slightly, he just bent down and wanted to dig out the magic core of the four-armed demon ape, but something unexpected happened. The demon ape lying on the ground suddenly opened its bloody mouth and roared at Yejing. With this roar, a tangible red sound wave swung out of the demon ape's mouth. Yejing didn't even have time to react and was hit directly by the blood-red sound wave. Under mental attack, mental immunity is triggered, lasting for 15 seconds, and cooling for 15 minutes. Damn it! Yejing was startled by this sudden attack, and his body subconsciously jumped up, swung a knife, and chopped the demon ape's head head-on. After the slash, the ape's originally blood-red eyes dimmed, and it died. Damn it! Yejing cursed himself inwardly, almost forgetting that this was a ground-level monster. Like humans, ground-level monsters would also use mental attacks. If he hadn't had the god-level passive mental immunity that lasted for 15 seconds, he would definitely have been hit. If he had been hit, the consequences would have been disastrous. "You must trick me until you die." Yejing viciously dug out the magic core of the four-armed ape, put it into the storage bracelet, and stood up. At the same time, he took another look at the knife in his hand, and couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. The golden knife flashed, and his parents raised him in vain. "It's worthy of the Omega Sublight as the main material weapon, it's awesome." The ground-level monster was cut with one knife, which was really beyond his expectation. Holding a knife in one hand, Yejing slowly walked to the few young men who were still alive, frowning and saying, "Why are you guys in such a place? Don't you have anyone to protect you?" A group of children, if calculated according to their age, are still just high school students, but they actually ran to such a dangerous place. Do high school students in the Demon City not fear death? The boy standing in the front had a sad face and said, "We are from a monk academy, and we followed our teacher to practice. We encountered a strange white fog a few hours ago and got separated." Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 195. White Fog. Yejing frowned and asked, "Which direction?" The boy pointed in a direction and replied, "In the south, a large area of white fog covered the entire mountain. We couldn't see anything. It was at that time that we lost contact with the teacher who led the team." As he said this, the boy looked down at his dead classmate, clenched his fists, and left tears of regret on his face. He led the way this way. "South? Isn't that the direction of Lan Lake?" Yejing was slightly startled. The direction he was going to was the south, where the group of fantasy beasts appeared. He had never heard of a large area of white fog appearing in the Kilin Mountains. Could it be that there was a large monster undergoing a tribulation? Should he go or not? The sudden appearance of the unknown white fog made him hesitate. He didn't know what dangers were in it. Once he lost his way, it would be very dangerous in the Kilin Mountains. However, since he had come here, wouldn't it be a pity not to take a look? After thinking for a while, Yejing decided to go over and take a look. Maybe it wasn't that dangerous. He glanced at the teenagers, sighed secretly, and pointed out the way out for them. You go that way, I came from that way, and I got out of the Kilin Mountains safely along the way. Go back alive. Yejing walked carefully in the direction pointed by the teenager. Now that he had reached the Kilin Mountains, it was no longer so easy to get through. According to legend, the entire Kilin Mountains are home to hundreds of thousands of magic beasts, ranging from human-level to super-level magic beasts, and there are dozens of super-level magic beasts alone. As early as more than 10 years ago, during the Magic Beast Riot, hundreds of thousands of magic beasts poured out of the Kilin Mountains and surrounded the Demon City. At that time, 33 super-level magic beasts appeared. If high-end combat forces had not been mobilized from other cities on Blue Star in time, the Demon City would probably have become a ruin area. However, it has been heard that there is a magic beast emperor in the Kilin Mountains who commands all of Kilin, but he has never appeared. Anyone who has seen the beast emperor has died. It shouldn't be such a coincidence, right? I am only active in the periphery. I don't think I can see even the super-level beasts of the heavenly rank, let alone the demonic beast emperor. The large white fog that suddenly appeared should be just the transformation of the group of phantom beasts. Yejing also understood that there would be no demonic beasts above the heavenly rank in the periphery of the Kilin Mountains, but for some reason, his heart was shaking, as if he had a bad premonition. Not long after, just over half an hour, Yejing found that the air around him was filled with faint white silk, white gas floating in the air, and there was a very pungent sour smell. Is this the white fog that the young man said? Yejing looked ahead. Now that he had just reached the vicinity of the white fog, there was still visibility. If he continued to move forward, the visibility would probably be less than 10 meters. In that case, if he reacted slowly, he might be attacked by surprise. After walking a few hundred meters forward, the white fog nearby became thicker and thicker. He opened his eyes and saw only a white scene 10 meters away, and he could not see anything. Not only that, the range within 10 meters was a little blurry. Yejing held the golden knife in his hand, and slashed at the white mist in the air through the void. With one slash, the white mist 3 or 4 meters in front of him was split open, revealing a clear ground. However, in less than 2 seconds, white mist filled up again and restored the original state. Where is he now? Yejing was startled. He suddenly turned around and looked behind him. His back was covered by white mist, and the surroundings were exactly the same. He had no ability to distinguish. If this continued, he would lose his way in no time. Yejing directly lowered the golden knife and dragged it on the ground. Every step he took left a knife mark of varying depths on the ground, a line connecting the way out. The white mist covered his vision, but his perception and hearing were still there. When the sound appeared, Yejing's whole body tensed up. There is something on the right. He could feel that a creature on the right side of his body suddenly rushed towards him. Subconsciously, he turned his body to the side and swung a knife to the right. After a flash of golden light, the white mist was split apart. However, when the knife chopped down, Yejing was suddenly stunned. Nothing. In addition to the split white mist, only the gray ground and the gravel on the ground were revealed, but there was no living creature at all. Moreover, even the breath of the creatures that I sensed before disappeared. Illusion. Impossible. I never believe in illusions. As long as it appears, it must exist. There is no such thing as illusion. Either the perception is distorted, or the breath is hidden. It is impossible to perceive it wrongly. When Yejing thought of the unknown creatures that could be invisible and hide their breath, his brows frowned, and his spirit became tense. What a troublesome monster, this kind of monster is the most annoying. It doesn't fight you head on, but knows to hide behind and attack. This is not Yejing's character at all. Just when Yejing was alert, the breath that suddenly disappeared before appeared again. From behind Yejing, a sudden unknown breath made his hair stand on end. He turned his body quickly, increased his hand speed, and slashed horizontally. Air again. Before Yejing could reorganize his movements, he felt a sharp pain on his shoulder, as if he was scratched by a sharp weapon, directly scraping his clothes and cutting his mouth, and a column of blood spurted out. Hiss. Yejing took a breath of cold air. It hurts. Why is it so painful? He looked at the wound on his shoulder, his eyes widened. A very deep and thin claw mark fell on his shoulder. It was just a thin mark, but you could see the pale bones inside. My God! What a sharp claw! Yejing trembled all over. With just one claw, he forcibly dug his shoulder open and scraped the bone. No wonder it hurt so much. He was about to treat the wound, and the ethereal and invisible breath appeared again. With an extremely dangerous sense of wind, it pointed directly at Yejing's body. Left side. Yejing's eyes flashed coldly, and the spiritual energy in his body flowed, wrapping the golden knife, and he chopped it back with his backhand. The next second. You. Yejing was angry and cursed, and it was empty again. As his knife fell, the white mist split apart, and no monsters were seen. Then, a deep bone-seeing mark appeared on his left arm. It was empty again. Why? Why can't I beat it? It can attack me. Yejing's head was about to explode. If this continued, he would be toyed to death by this demon beast sooner or later. No. This cannot go on. You can hide your breath, but I can't? Thinking of this, Yejing carefully stared at the surroundings, leaned against a dead tree, and held his breath. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 196. 3 seconds later. Trigger the invisible wings, enter the invisible state, disappear the breath, consume 1% of the total spiritual energy per second, break after action. As the invisible wings were triggered, Yejing turned into Timo, no, an invisible man, his body disappeared from sight, and even his breath was hidden. This passive skill, Yejing usually would not trigger. The consumption is too large. Every second it consumes 1% of the total spiritual energy value. Even when his spiritual energy is full, it can only last for 100 seconds. And after 100 seconds, his spiritual energy is gone, and the whole person becomes a waste. But now, he is helpless, encountering such an old and sinister monster. If he does not use some special passive, he will not be able to defeat it. Now, one person and one unknown monster, both have hidden their breath, and the surrounding area instantly became quiet, without any sound, but the killing aura is getting thicker, and the heavy feeling is pressing on this area. Time is ticking. Seconds passed by, but the unknown monster did not move at all, as if it had disappeared, or it had become alert, not giving Yejing any chance to take advantage of it. Come out! Yejing couldn't help shouting in his heart, getting anxious. His hiding was different from the hiding of unknown monsters. It needed a lot of spiritual energy to fill it. The longer it consumed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Just when Yejing couldn't help but want to exit the stealth mode and think of another way, the breath of the monster appeared. From right in front of Yejing, the ethereal breath of the monster appeared again. The monster was obviously intelligent, knowing where Yejing was hiding, and was very cautious. It dragged on for 30 seconds before launching a surprise attack. This time, Yejing didn't even blink, staring at the white mist in front of him. If there was a breath, there might be a body. This time, don't think about running. Whoosh! A tearing wind sound came from the front, and the claws with the breath of death stabbed at Yejing's neck. In a moment, Yejing's pupils shrank. It looked clear. The knife fell. Woo! A painful wail sounded in Yejing's ears, and then the monster disappeared again as if it could move instantly. However, this time Yejing also saw the general appearance of the monster, and finally knew why he couldn't cut it, but it could attack him. In the white mist, only a shadow appeared. The monster's shadow was only the size of a palm, with a 10-centimeter tail hanging behind it. The mist was blocking, and only the purple demon pupils were flashing. No wonder it couldn't be cut. With such a small body, it could easily dodge his attack. Damn it! Let it run away again. Yejing cursed inwardly. If it wasn't solved at once, it would be troublesome again. However, the next second, a sudden turn of events, a voice appeared in his mind. Trigger bleeding, the enemy enters the bleeding state, losing 1% of the current health per second, lasting for 10 seconds. So lucky. Yejing was ecstatic. Triggering other passives might be useless, but this bleeding is really very useful now. Yejing looked at the ground, and sure enough, there was a faint trace of blood on the ground, only purple blood spots the size of gravel. Yejing looked along the purple blood on the ground, and the unknown monster was still moving, jumping up and down in an incredible trajectory. Finally caught you. Yejing's mouth corners rose, and a sneer appeared. In his dark eyes, a strong murderous intent flashed. His father was reluctant to hit him, but today he was played by a palm-sized thing for a long time, which was embarrassing. Fortunately, no one saw it. 10 seconds is a short time, but it is definitely enough. Yejing locked his sight on the unknown monster jumping up and down. The next second, he disappeared from the spot. His body moved at high speed, rolling up white mist. His shadow moved with the wind. In a blink of an eye, he rushed to the unknown monster. Small, right? If I can't cut you even if I lock on, I can go and commit suicide. The frequency of Yejing's footsteps closely followed the unknown monster. When the frequency was synchronized, he swung his knife. The golden knife flashed, and your parents raised you in vain. No matter how many years your parents raised you, everything was gone when the golden knife chopped down. Ugh! Swish! Hit the entity. Deep purple blood splashed all over the sky and splashed Yejing's face. The wailing sound echoed in his ears. The unknown monster that had been hiding in the void was vulnerable, stopped moving, and fell to the ground. Yejing pointed his knife at the unknown monster, not daring to relax at all. At the same time, he also saw the true form of the monster. This. On the ground, there was a palm-sized cat lying, with blood stained on its snow-white and flawless fur, and a hideous knife mark, and its purple pupils were full of murderous intent, staring at Yejing intently. Its claws were very sharp, like needles, and there were faint blood stains on them, which were Yejing's blood. Yejing, I just let such a little thing play with me all day? How embarrassing. But why do I feel that this cat is so cute? Yejing's heart moved, and suddenly he couldn't bear to kill it. Sure enough, cuteness is universal. However, when the figure of the purple cat gradually faded and was about to enter the hidden state. Puff! Yejing expressionlessly inserted the golden knife into the thin body of the purple cat. Puff! He inserted it with force and pulled it out very hard. He sneered, "Let it go? How is it possible? I am not a cat slave. Do you really think you can do whatever you want just because you are cute? Don't dream. You are not a female of the same kind." As the purple cat's eyes dimmed, a thumb-sized purple gem slipped out of its mouth. Magic core? Hold it in your mouth. After a slight pause, Yejing squatted down and picked up the magic core. At the same time, he looked at the purple cat again, feeling a little confused. Is this the raw material of the magic beast for making the Lis potion? I don't know. After all, is this a magic beast with fantasy attributes? It doesn't look like it. After thinking about it, Yejing took out the crystal bottle that he had prepared in advance for safety reasons and grabbed the body of the purple cat very brutally. Bleeding. The dark purple blood looked very strange, but after less than 100 ml of blood flowed, the dark purple color faded. Seeing this, Yejing couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that the essence of this monster was only about 100 ml. So sad, so much wasted before. After collecting the purple cat's essence and magic core, Yejing was about to turn around, but suddenly paused. His eyes were on the monster's body again, and he suddenly swallowed his saliva. I think, it's time to eat, right? Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 197. Chapter 196. Something seems to be going to happen. The sky gradually darkened, and the surroundings were covered with white fog. The danger of walking at this time was much greater than during the day. The riots of the monsters would be more serious at night in the Qilan Mountains. After Yejing dealt with the magic cat, he did not move forward, but chose to make a fire on the spot and recover from his injuries. He still had scars from the magic cat's claws. The scars were so deep that the bones could be seen. It was painful to pull them. He could not feel them during the battle, but now that he was relaxed, the pain instantly spread all over his body. But fortunately, he had extraordinary physique. After he left the battle, his injured body was recovering at an incredible speed. The scars were visibly filled up. It took only about 10 minutes for the injuries all over his body to recover as before. Night was not suitable for action or sleep. After Yejing lit a fire and dispelled a piece of white fog, he sat cross-legged and began to condense his spiritual energy. Even so, he did not relax his vigilance and was still tense. After all, no one knew whether there would be another monster attack at night. White fog and darkness meant that he could not see his hand in front of his face. His senses also decreased significantly. Dangers were everywhere, but he was not found. One night passed like this. When the sun rose, Yejing slowly opened his eyes, a ray of light flashed out, his mouth slightly opened, and a foot-long air sword came out of his mouth. Huh! After taking a deep breath, Yejing stood up. As he moved, crackling bones collided all over his body. After a night of repair, his spirit doubled. Should we be close to Lanhu? Yejing adjusted his position and muttered. He didn't know whether the purple magic cat was used to make the Clarice potion. He didn't see other monsters nearby. I think it should be, right? Following the direction set before, Yejing held the golden knife and continued to move towards Lanhu. At this point, it was impossible for him to turn back. Before he had walked for long, he heard the sound of flowing water, which shocked him. What direction? The white fog was still spreading, and visibility was very low. Now he could only rely on listening to the sound to determine the location. Following the sound of the water, he was very disappointed. This was just a stream, not Lan Lake. No. Yejing frowned and looked at the direction of the water flow. It was normal for the water flow to converge into a lake, right? As long as he followed the stream, he should be able to reach Lan Lake. Although he wanted to go to Lan Lake as soon as possible, he knew one thing very well. There was a group of phantom beasts near Lan Lake. Not just one or two, but a group. High returns mean high risks. Facing one or two, he can still deal with it, but facing a group, he can only run away. The more he walked towards Lan Lake, the more cautious he became. He couldn't help but look solemn. A sense of disobedience filled the surroundings, making him feel very wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. The air gradually became heavy. Walking alone in the white fog, the atmosphere of pressure made him a little breathless. He thought to himself that if he had known earlier, he would have brought Gray with him. He could fly into the air to observe the range of the white fog. And when he encountered an invincible monster, he could take him away. Encountering an invincible monster. Encountering a monster. Yejing's face suddenly changed and he stopped walking. He finally knew what was wrong. He finally knew where the sense of disharmony that had been following him for a long time came from. Where are the monsters? Where are the hundreds of thousands of monsters in the Kilin Mountains? Why can't I see them? Recalling the moment he entered the Kilin Mountains, more than 10 hours and nearly 20 miles away, he encountered two monsters. This is unscientific. One was on the outskirts of the Kilin Mountains, outside the white fog. One was within the white fog. Then there was nothing. Before he came to the Kilin Mountains, he was ready to be besieged by several or even dozens of monsters. But now, not to mention the siege, he couldn't even encounter many monsters. Thinking of this, Yejing became a little flustered. There are only two situations. 1. He was lucky and missed the monsters along the way. 2. He entered the territory of a very powerful monster. Or there is a very powerful monster hidden nearby, which has driven away all the other weak monsters. No way. Yejing pursed his dry lips, and a bad premonition surged in his heart. He subconsciously held the golden knife so that he could enter the combat state at any time. At the same time, his nerves, which had been somewhat relaxed, became tense again, and his eyes were full of vigilance to observe the surroundings. Time passed by minute by minute. The surroundings were extremely quiet, and nothing happened. Is it my illusion? Yejing couldn't help but feel puzzled. He didn't feel anything unusual along the way. After waving the golden knife casually, he suddenly froze, his eyes were shocked, and he looked straight ahead, as if he had discovered something incredible. How could there be no abnormality? Isn't this white fog covering several kilometers abnormal? He was in the white fog for several hours, but he just discovered it. He couldn't help but call himself an idiot. Thinking of this, Yejing looked around the white fog in the air, and his heart was lifted instantly. He had no idea how large an area the white mist covered, but he knew one thing. A monster that can emit this level of white mist is definitely not something he can deal with. No, I have to leave. I have to turn back. Yejing suddenly turned around and turned around. It was too dangerous. Why did he go to Lan Lake at this time? What kind of fantasy beast were he looking for? It was important to save his life. The strong sense of crisis in his heart made him flinch. Without any hesitation, he followed the traces made by the golden knife on the ground and returned to the original path. I would rather go to a tavern than go to Arashi Lake. Yejing's steps were fast, more than twice as fast as before he came here. His body was like a gust of wind. He could get out of the white mist as quickly as possible. After walking, and running for a few minutes, Yejing suddenly stopped, his body stiffened, his eyes widened, and he looked ahead in shock. Why is there a wall here? Yejing screamed subconsciously. He lowered his head and looked at the ground. There were still traces left by the golden knife. The road was right. He looked along the direction of the golden knife mark, and when he raised his head, a wall broke. In other words, where he came, such a wall appeared inexplicably and without warning. Oh my God! What is going on? Yejing couldn't help but murmur, and walked to the foot of the wall in 2 or 3 steps. It was a pale white wall. It was covered with white mist. He looked up and couldn't see the top. He looked left and right but couldn't see the sides. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Buletin G. Bayet. Chapter 198. Yejing reached out and carefully touched the mysterious white wall. The cold and biting feeling flowed into his body through his fingers, making him shiver all over. The temperature is like solid ice, and it feels extremely smooth. Is this a wall? Isn't this a wall? Yejing raised the golden knife and scratched it, no trace left. It shouldn't be. He looked at the still smooth white wall and couldn't help but frown. His weapon came with ash destruction, which could destroy 1% of the body of the object it attacked. This was the minimum damage value. Why can't even a single scar show up on this white wall? Although Yejing had doubts, he still held onto the white wall and walked in one direction along the wall. As long as he crossed the wall, he could exit the white mist. He was holding onto the wall with one hand and hanging the knife in the other, still leaving traces on the ground to prevent himself from getting lost. Quietly, he slowed down his steps, not daring to make a sound while moving, for fear of disturbing the unknown existence emitting white mist. I don't know if it was an illusion or an error in his perception. Since approaching the white wall, the surrounding white fog has become much thicker. Originally, I could still see things 3 or 4 meters away. Now, my line of sight is directly within 1 meter, and the danger has increased a lot. He was moving, and so was the white mist. The thicker and thicker white mist shrouded the area, and its concentration kept increasing. But, still nothing. The calmer it became, the more panicked he became. If a few monsters could jump out and attack him at this time, he would be willing to do so. If the silence continued like this, he would not know what would happen, which would make the thief uncomfortable, etc. Why does the touch feel different? While walking, Yejing's hand kept holding onto the white wall. Suddenly, the white wall, which was still very hard, suddenly softened, like a precious velvet blanket. Yejing turned around and was stunned. What's this? Why did it become black? He glanced at the side, and saw that white and black were clearly separated, with white on the left and black on the right. The original white wall was in an oval shape, wrapped in black. Why do I feel like something is watching me? Sudden. The black side suddenly squirmed and trembled slightly from the inside out. This sudden thing frightened Yejing to take several steps back, with lingering fear. Hateful. The white mist is so thick that I can't even see clearly what it is. The wall is still or. Yejing cursed secretly, raised the golden knife in his hand, and slashed at the sky and the surrounding area. The 3 or 4 meter long wave of the knife rippled around, clearing away all the white mist in a radius of 10 meters. I want to see what you are like. After Yejing retracted the knife, he turned to look at the squirming black object. Ding dong. At the first glance, the knife in Yejing's hand fell to the ground. Thump. At the second glance, Yejing's feet trembled and he sat down on the ground. This is not a black ore. This is a black eyeball. An eyeball nearly 10 meters long and wide. Oh my god. Yejing was so shocked by the big eyes in front of him that his whole body trembled. He couldn't stand upright and fell to the ground. There was a look of deep fear in his eyes, his face turned pale in an instant, and his breathing was so frightened that he was suffocated. A strong fear that he had never experienced before filled his whole body. He was looking into that huge black eye. The huge black eyes seemed to be looking at him. If he hadn't been able to pee his pants, he would have been wet underneath. What is this? Yejing swallowed his saliva, with a horrified look on his face. He suddenly thought of the white wall that he had supported all the way, and his heart went cold. The truth is out. That's not a wall at all. That's the body of this creature. How long have you been gone? A few thousand meters or tens of thousands of meters. In other words, the size of this creature is at least tens of thousands of meters. There are only 2 things that Yejing is sure of now. 1. There is no doubt that the white mist must be emitted by it. The surrounding monsters were also scared away by it. 2. If you don't run away, you'll be dead. Run. What are you thinking? Yejing just wanted to stand up, but found that he couldn't move. His body seemed to be weighed down by a huge mountain. It was extremely heavy. His whole body was surrounded by a strong sense of fear and was very stiff. It's not that he doesn't want to run, it's that his body is too frightened to move. This is the first time he has encountered such a powerful creature, Whether it is a human or a monster, it is more powerful than he has ever seen before. Even when facing the Lord of Li City and the Deputy Lord of Changqiao, it was no better than just a chance. Extraordinary monster. And it's not just any ordinary extraordinary monster. This is the top existence in the Qilan Mountains and even the entire Blue Star. Countless images flashed through his mind in an instant, like a revolving door before death. Get moving! Get moving! Yejing roared in his heart, and couldn't help but punch his legs fiercely. After hitting with all his strength, his legs, which were as stiff as iron, felt a trace of pain and trembled slightly. Yejing grabbed the golden knife that fell on the ground beside him, supported his body, and stood up forcefully. For some reason, he could feel that this creature had been staring at him without making any movement, as if it was looking at an ant. Whether it's ants or dog poop, run away first. Faced with a being that was at least tens of thousands of meters in size, he could not even muster the courage to confront it, and he did not even have the courage to look it in the face. The gap in strength was too big. Turn around. Run. Yejing's face was pale and bloodless, he gritted his teeth, and turned around and ran without caring about the direction. However, the moment he turned around, an incredible scene happened. As soon as he turned around, he saw the big eyes that frightened him again. What happened? Yejing's breathing became rapid in an instant, and he turned around to look behind him, but found that there was only white fog behind him. Did he not turn around? Yejing forced himself to calm down the panic in his heart and turned around again. An equally incredible scene. Turning around, it was still that nearly 10-meter-sized black deep pupil and the pale body. Hiss. Yejing took a breath of cold air. What kind of ability is this? Perception error? Is it an illusion? Did I think I turned around but actually didn't? Or did the body of the extraordinary beast change direction when I turned around? Impossible. It is impossible for such a huge body to move silently, and it moves in an instant. What is the ability of this extraordinary beast? Suddenly, Yejing suddenly remembered that when he first came to the Magic City, he had read books and looked up the history of the Magic City. During the siege of the Qilan Mountains more than 10 years ago, there was a beast whose shape covered the sky, whose body was like a mountain, and whose body moved thousands of miles of white fog, and whose body seemed to exist and not exist. An extraordinary fantasy beast, the closest to the Qilan Mountains magic beast emperor. White Whale. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 199. The white whale has only appeared once, and there is very little information about it. Its biggest feature is that wherever its body goes, white fog surrounds it, completely covering its body. If it is not close to the face like Yejing, or if the vision can see through the white fog, the body of the white whale cannot be seen at all. The last time it appeared was during the siege of the Qilan Mountains more than 10 years ago. Although it appeared, it did not attack. Its personality is temporarily judged to be gentle and its attribute is illusion. That's it. This is all the information Yejing knows about the white whale. When he read the information at that time, it felt very unreal. It was not until now that he saw such a huge monster face to face that he felt it was real. It turned out that there really is such a huge monster. Yejing suppressed the fear in his heart and looked up at the white whale shrouded in white fog. He knew that running away was useless. He also knew that the white whale had sensed his existence. Why he didn't kill him was unclear. For someone of Yejing's level, the white whale could crush Yejing to death by just blowing a breath or moving his body. Maybe it's gentle? Maybe it's disdain? You don't kill me, but let me run. Yejing felt very miserable. Whenever he changed direction, the body of the white whale would appear in front of him, no matter which direction he was in. He judged that at such a close distance, his mental power had been eroded and covered by the white whale's phantom energy, or even distorted. The things he saw in front of him and the body of the white whale could be said to be illusions, but they were real in front of him. He just didn't know how to get rid of the distortion of this phantom energy. What Yejing didn't know was that it was not just him. Wherever the white whale went, in addition to its body, the mental perception within a radius of several miles had been distorted. As long as he was covered by the white fog, he could not get out of the influence of the white whale. There was no danger, and he didn't know how to escape. Yejing's fear gradually subsided, and the panic in his heart was suppressed. His previously vague thinking ability gradually recovered, and he began to think about something that he cared about very much. Why did the white whale appear here? The Kilin Mountains surround the demon city, stretching for thousands of miles. It can be roughly divided into three areas: the deepest, inner, and outer. For an existence like the white whale, its territory should be in the deepest, but now it appears in the outer area, which makes him very confused. Could it be that the monsters in the Kilin Mountains are going to riot again? It doesn't seem like it. Yejing frowned and stood there, not daring to lean on the body of the white whale. Just as he was thinking about why the white whale appeared here and how to escape from the influence of mental power, a very familiar breath swept into his nose, causing his brain to shake violently. Such a familiar pungent smell, I always feel that I have smelled it somewhere before. Yejing gently sniffed the pungent fragrance emitted by the white mist. He has been able to smell this smell since he entered the white mist, and he has already adapted to it. But he suddenly remembered that he had smelled this smell when he was in the demon city. Where did he smell it before? Suddenly, Yejing's pupils shrank sharply, and a colorful picture flashed in his mind. Alice Potion. That's right. It must be Alice Potion. The night before yesterday, when he opened the bottle of Alice Potion for the first time, this pungent fragrance came to his face and soaked into his nose. At that time, he thought it was the unique fragrance of the potion, but now it seems that it is not simple. No way. Yejing's eyes showed a trace of disbelief, his expression was shocked, and a terrifying thought emerged in his mind. When he came here before, there was only white fog and no body of the white whale. And when he came back, the body of the white whale appeared here. In other words, the white whale is now in a moving state. Although the speed is very slow, although his mental power is disturbed and cannot be detected. But the white whale is actually moving. Yejing turned his head suddenly, identified the direction, and discovered an amazing fact. The direction of the white whale's movement is the magic city. He didn't want to believe his own judgment, so he took out the bottle of Alice Potion he had drunk before from his storage bracelet, put it in front of his nose and smelled it. Well, very good, it was this pungent fragrance, although it was lighter than the one in the white mist, but it was this smell. It's confirmed. Oh my goodness. Yejing trembled all over, and couldn't help muttering in his mouth, what on earth do those people who are courting death want to do? He understood everything. To make the Alice Potion, you need the blood of a fantasy monster, and this fantasy monster may have a little connection with the white whale. And that unknown force extracted the essence that can attract the white whale from the body of that fantasy monster, and the Alice Potion was just a scrap to get funds. What their force really needs is the essence that can attract the white whale. When the Pioneer Guild issues a commission to find fantasy monsters, only pioneers who have taken the Alice Potion will be interested. In this way, when entering the Kilin Mountains, the entire outer area will be filled with this pungent fragrance, which will strengthen the ability to attract white whales and disperse other weak monsters. How many of those fantasy monsters must be killed to extract the energy essence that attracts the superclass monster white whale? 1,000? Or 10,000? Anyway, the energy essence of the illusion can at least allow the white whale to travel thousands of miles and run out from the deepest part of the Kilin Mountains. Thinking of this, Yejing calculated how far away the demon city is now. It should be less than 20 miles. It is estimated that it will not take long for the white fog to spread to the vicinity of the demon city. However, ordinary guards do not know that there is a huge monster hidden in the white fog. Is the demon city going to become a ruin area like the Lonely City? Impossible. Yejing directly denied this idea. The strength of the demon city is not comparable to that of the Lonely City, and the size of the white whale is not even 1/10 of a small planetary fragment. It is impossible for just a superclass monster to subvert the demon city. After all, the demon city is the second largest city on Blue Star, and there are dozens of extraordinary strong men in the open and dark sides, not to mention the dean of the Demon Academy, a 3-calamity strong man. Now that the general idea has been guessed, everything has returned to the starting point. Yejing stared at the white whale. How to get rid of the mental distortion in front of him is the next focus. We must get out of the white whale's illusion range in the shortest possible time. Generally speaking, when a mountain-sized body moves, it must be earth-shattering, but Yejing could not hear a single sound, and there were no deep traces of movement on the ground. He couldn't even see the white whale's body moving. This was the most uncomfortable. Congratulations to myself for reaching the first zone master in hentai. Congratulations, congratulations. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 200. Chapter 199. The chief went to destroy the group. This should be considered a passive skill, right? Yejing looked at the white mist surrounding him and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The white whale in front of him ignored him at all. The dark eyes nearly 2 stories high only glanced at him and turned away. The white whale didn't take him seriously at all, but the hallucinatory energy fluctuations it emitted were no longer something he could resist. This was the most terrifying thing. The gap in strength between the two sides was so great that Yejing silently withdrew the golden knife, for fear of accidentally touching the white whale and angering it. Although he could not see the movement trajectory of the beluga, Yejing knew that the beluga was moving towards the demon city. Perhaps because of the influence of the white mist, he was also moving, but he couldn't feel it. But when he thought that his life was not in danger for the time being, Yejing's heart dropped from his throat and he breathed a secret sigh of relief. To be honest, the moment he saw the beluga, he was almost frightened. Peed my pants. Yejing couldn't be happier that he had saved his life because of his weak strength. The most important thing now was how to notify the city to prepare for the battle, and it was best to minimize the losses. I don't know if the phone can still be used. Yejing thought for a while, took out his mobile phone, clicked on the screen, and his eyes lit up. It works. As long as it works, he directly clicked on the camera function, pointed his backhand at himself and the beluga, and took a selfie first to commemorate such a great scene. This kind of scene may never be encountered again in the future, and it is really unjustifiable not to photograph it. By the way, open beauty. After 9 consecutive shots, Yejing showed a satisfied smile, and then remembered the business and sent a video call to Gray. In his circle of friends, except for the chief who was not familiar with him, only Gray had the power to contact the higher UPS. After the video was connected, Gray's dark blue eyes and pure white face were revealed. The background was in a tavern. It seemed that he had been dragged into working as a laborer again. If Yejing knew that he would encounter this situation, he would rather work as a laborer in the stronghold than be afraid next to the white whale. Before Yejing could speak, Gray started yelling. Where on earth are you? You didn't really go to the Kilin Mountains, did you? He had gone to Yejing's house before, but no one answered him at all. Yejing secretly wiped the sweat from his forehead, shrugged his shoulders, turned the camera, and showed Gray the surrounding scene. Gray wondered, what's going on? Why is there such a thick white mist? What are the white walls and black things behind you? Yejing didn't know why, but his nervousness disappeared after seeing Gray, and he couldn't help but smile. Guess what this is, guess what I encountered? Gray chuckled and said, if it's not a wall or something, how can it be skin? Yejing's mouth twitched. Are his senses so accurate? Open Kayadu and enter the word white whale. Moby Dick? What? Gray looked confused and muttered that it was inexplicable, but he still went to check it out honestly. 1 minute later. A scream suddenly sounded, followed by the phone screen shaking violently, and with a crisp metal collision, the phone fell to the ground. After a moment of fussing, Gray's panicked eyes and frightened face appeared on the screen again, and he said in a trembling tone, no way. Beluga. Is it really that white whale? He looked up the word white whale on Kayadu, and a series of keywords appeared in his sight. Super level, one of the top beings in the Killen Mountains, a fantasy monster, carrying white mist with him, with a body size of over 10,000 meters. Every keyword hit his heart like a heavy stone. Yejing couldn't help laughing when he saw Gray's appearance. He had the same expression just now when he realized it was a white whale. That's right, it's the super-level monster, the white whale. Snap! The phone fell to the ground again. After a few seconds, they continued to contact, and Gray kept screaming, Beluga. Aren't you on the outskirts of the Killen Mountains? How could you encounter a beluga? Run. If you don't run, you're waiting to die. Yejing looked helpless. I also want to run, but I can't. I have been mentally corroded by the white whale and fell into its hallucination. I can't even run away. If he could run away, he would probably be in the demon city by now. Oh. It's so bad. Are you going to die? Gray looked sad. Friend, I will remember you. What is this? Yejing had a dark look on his face and said angrily, is there anything worse that you want to hear? Gray looked confused. Is there anything worse than encountering a super-level monster? It really does. Yejing's expression suddenly became solemn, and his face became tense and serious. This white whale is moving from the deepest part of the Killen Mountains to the outside. Now, moving towards the demon city. Ding dong. Plop. This time it was two voices. The phone fell to the ground. Gray was so shocked by the shocking news that his legs became unsteady and he fell to the ground. This time Gray was stunned for several minutes before he recovered. He hurriedly picked up the phone and said with a stiff face, really? Yejing nodded seriously, really, otherwise why would I contact you? According to my guess, it was the force that made the Alice potion that used a large amount of fantasy beast blood to extract the energy essence that interested the white whale and attracted it to the magic city. Alice potion. Gray was slightly startled when he heard the word, and a strange expression appeared on his face. What's wrong? Yejing frowned and asked. Gray hesitated for a moment, but still said, did you guess wrong? The force that made the Alice potion has been found out, and it is a small dark organization. In the morning, the chief suddenly went out to attack that small organization for some reason. It is estimated that it has been destroyed now. Yejing. Small organization? Whose small organization can play such a big game? Whose small organization has the ability to kill thousands of fantasy beasts to lead the white whale out from the deepest part of the Killen Mountains? You seem to be teasing me. Just when Yejing was about to refute, another voice came from the screen. Yejing is right. The white whale was led out by that organization. Chief. Gray turned his head in shock. The chief in a white robe was standing quietly behind him, playing with a colorful and exquisite palm-sized bottle in his hand. After seeing the chief, Yejing was obviously stunned for a moment. Have you found out? Was it really led out by that organization? What he said was just a guess, a bold guess based on the information in his hand. But the chief was different. He had just returned from the force that made the Alyssa potion. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Buletin G. Bayet. Chapter 201. Another peaceful day. The broken sun is still rotating. When the dark side turns to the blue star, night falls. When the light side turns to the blue star, day comes. The sun was shining brightly at this time, and although it was the middle of the year, it was not cold at all. The temperature in the Magic City was constant throughout the year. Going to work quietly and living a stable life is a portrayal of most ordinary people in Blue Star. If you don't follow the path of a practitioner, you won't have so many worries. As a civilian, even if you don't work, you can still work every month. There are also people who receive a sum of money from the Federation, which is used to provide food and clothing for their entire lives. On the thick city wall dozens of meters high in the southern city of the Demon City, guards were stationed in 2s and 3s. Some were leaning on the wall, some were practicing, and some were drinking. They were very lazy and without vigilance. But yes, as the second largest city in mankind and the largest economic city, the laziness of the guards should not be called laziness, but calmness. When a young guard casually looked at the Kilin Mountains, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. He pulled the person next to him and asked, "Hey, what do you think that is? White mist is rising in the Kilin Mountains." The guard next to him was drinking. He drunkenly looked in the direction of the Kilin Mountains and said nonchalantly, "Maybe it's the weather that's changing." "Whatever. Is that so?" The young guard looked worriedly at the white mist emerging in the distance, but he didn't say much. Since the seniors said it was okay, then it should be okay. The scene changes. When Jizukiyo appeared, Gray was far away in the blink of an eye and even threw his phone to him. Yejing glanced at the chief several times. He was unscathed. Even his clothes were clean and without a trace of blood. Was he definitely going to destroy the group? "Are you sure you're not traveling? Or is that small organization very weak?" Jizukiyo shook the colorful bottle in his hand, smiled at the screen and said, "Is that the legendary white whale behind you? Show me." "Forward." Yejing had other questions, but when he saw the chief being so curious, he reluctantly raised his phone and put the lens on the huge body of the beluga whale. After all, he still didn't know whether what he saw in front of him was the real body of the white whale, or a phantom of the white whale left behind after being mentally distorted. From the very beginning when I saw the black whale eyes squirming, I never saw the beluga move again, just like a painting. Although he no longer paid attention, exaggerated shouting came from the other end of the phone. "Wow! Is this the beluga? This is my first time seeing it, so I took a photo with it. It's a pity. If I didn't have something else to do next, I really want to go over and touch it in person. No, if I go, I will probably anger the white whale instantly, right? I'm so envious." "Chief, enough is enough." Yejing twitched the corner of his mouth and directly turned the screen in front of him. For a moment, the chief, who was still in a state of excitement, suddenly changed his expression and became quiet again. His black eyes as deep as the abyss looked directly at Yejing and said calmly, "Classmate Yejing, there is a task for you now, mandatory." "What mission?" Yejing was stunned for a moment, and an ominous premonition surged in his heart. "Bring the beluga back to the depths of the Kilin Mountains." "Impossible." As soon as Jizukiyo finished speaking, Yejing refused without hesitation. "Are you kidding me? Is this something he can intervene in? Do you think you died quickly enough?" And he didn't think he could control the white whale to return to the depths of the Kilin Mountains. This is unrealistic. The white whale moves with a target. Its target is the energy essence of the phantom beast that can help it. That thing is not my concern at all. Jizukiyo narrowed his eyes, threw the colorful bottle in his hand, and said with a smile, "But it's in my hand." Yejing. Yejing's eyes widened and he looked straight at the colorful bottle in the chief's hand. He was stunned for several seconds before he recovered and asked in surprise, How come you have this thing in your hand? Of course I stole it, Jizuki said matter-of-factly. Well, you win. Yejing still shook his head. Just because it's in your hands doesn't mean it's in my hands. I can't do without the mental control of the white whale now. I can't get the energy essence of the fantasy beast at all, and it's too late to send it over. The white whale will be there soon. We're going to the magic city. If someone were to send it to him now, it would be better to find someone else to do it, and besides, there would be no time to find someone faster to deliver it. There's enough time. Jizuki suddenly pointed at Gray, who was 10 meters away from him. As long as you let him deliver it, it will definitely be in time. Gray. Gray looked confused and was lying down. When he heard that the chief asked him to get close to the white whale, his face turned pale with fright. He shook his head one after another. No, 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 no. It's impossible for me to go, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. It's not dangerous at all. The white whale is not a murderous monster. I heard it has a gentle temperament. Look at Yejing, isn't he living well next to it? Heard. Gray's legs were shaking. Why are you so crazy that you insist on letting me go? It's too late. There is an air ban in the Demon City. It is illegal to fly in the air without a warrant from the federal director. Gray was still struggling. If he was allowed to go, it would require a direct flight all the way, but there was an air ban in the Magic City. If he went to the director now, he wouldn't be able to get it done within a few hours. Unfortunately, Jizuki gave him the final blow. Jizuki calmly took out a handcard made of mithril from his arms, with black gold fonts imprinted on it. Jizuki, the 109th director of the Blue Star Federation. Jizuki smiled and said, "How lucky you are. 3 days ago, due to my overwhelming achievements, I was appointed as the 109th director of the Federation." Yejing. Gray. The two people looked shocked and stared at the mithril card in the chief's hand in shock. In his early 20s, he is the chief of Yujianhei, the chief sophomore of the Demon Academy, and the 109th director of the Federation. You are the protagonist, right? Is there no problem now? After a period of silence, Jizuki threw the mithril handcard into Gray's arms, making him catch it in a panic. Now, as a federal director, I order you to send this bottle of fantasy beast essence to Yejing, and cooperate with Yejing to safely lead the beluga back to the depths of the Kilin Mountains. Your achievements will be recorded later. Chief, that's not right. Jizuki looked calm and gave the order in a calm tone. Although his voice was very soft, it revealed an irrefutable momentum. As his order was spoken, a strong sense of oppression pressed against Gray like a heavy stone. This was the first time they saw the serious chief. Thank you, Black Ruler, for the reward. You're welcome. I'll just give you a red envelope next time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 202. Gray looked at the mithril card in his hand and was stunned for several seconds before making a dull sound. My family also has a director. His father is also one of the 108 directors of the Federation, and his family's power is also in the upper middle class in Blue Star. Only. He was still shocked by Jizuki's status as director. How old was he? He has already obtained the status of a federal director, and his future prospects are limitless. It is not impossible to even sit on the 9 permanent directors in a few decades. So envious. The director of your family. Suddenly, a sneer appeared on Jizuki's face, and an imperceptible look of disgust flashed in his eyes, and he said lightly, "Rotten and timid adults, their status as directors has long become a decoration. The future Blue Star belongs to young people." His identity as a director was achieved through his own hard work step by step, and after being on the verge of death many times, he spent his life fighting for it. The purpose is to change this rotten federation. In his eyes, the old people have lost their motivation and are just hanging on to survive. The future of Blue Star depends on young people. Jizuki glanced sideways at Gray, who was full of envy, then turned to look at Yejing on the phone screen, and said, "Actually, you two have already registered your merits with the Federation." Yejing also recovered from his status as a director. After being stunned for a moment, he frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Jizuki pointed at Gray, then at Yejing, and said, "Don't think that I asked you to do things in vain. All your achievements will be recorded, and it will lay the foundation for the future. Although we hid something when we were in the ruins of Guken before, in fact, it was you two who delayed the destruction of Guken and made a huge contribution to the transfer of hundreds of thousands of people in Guken. This is your merit. And this time, we will lead the beluga whale that is about to arrive at the Demon City back to the deepest part of the Killen Mountains. After success, this is also a merit. Although it will not be told to the outside world, it will be recorded in your personal files." After saying that, Jizuki paused, and there was a hint of admiration in his eyes. "There are not many young people like you now. With these two achievements, if the Federation wants to cultivate young people or what? If I want to improve my plan, you will be my first choice. This is the advantage of merit. Is there still such a situation?" Yejing was stunned. He thought that nothing would happen after the Guken incident. He had already received the reward from the Lord of Li City and the Deputy Lord of Changqiao. He was very satisfied. But he didn't expect that there was an unexpected surprise. If Jizuki hadn't told him, he wouldn't have known there was such a thing as merit. Yejing's heart was pounding. He only had one achievement in his hands, an achievement in the ruins of an isolated city. If you are thinking about the future, maybe you can really try to lure the beluga back to the deepest part of the Killen Mountains this time. To be honest, he was moved. Merit is different from spirit stones. Strength is another intangible resource, just like intangible assets, and its effect is very great. Not only him, but even Gray, who was afraid of death, was hesitant. For a family disciple, the best thing to prove himself is strength, and the second is merit. But life is precious. Very dangerous. When he saw the hesitant Gray, Jizuki narrowed his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth. "Did you know? The status of a federal director is also based on merit. I have done enough merit to get the approval of the council. Without your contribution to humanity, even if you are an extraordinary three-disaster person, you will not be able to become a federal director. Federal councillor." In an instant, Gray raised his head, his bright eyes radiating strong light. He reached out and stroked a handful of smooth hair, showing a bright smile. "It's too late. Give me the bottle of Fantasy Beast Essence. There is nothing more tempting than the identity of a federal director. This is the identity that stands at the top of Blue Star's power." Just like that, Gray carefully took the essence of the Phantom Beast, took Jizuki's director card, and rushed out of the stronghold, flying into the sky. "Okay, just wait for Gray. It's best to think of a way to successfully complete the task," Jizuki said to Yejing, and then hung up the video call. The entire tavern stronghold fell silent. How many people with this kind of merit are needed to achieve the position of director? Suddenly, behind Jizuki, the bartender who had always had no presence asked. After Jizuki thought about it, he smiled and said, "I don't know, maybe dozens." The uncle said with a dark face, "That's why you used your status as a director as bait? Shameful." Jizuki sighed, looked out the window, with a gloomy expression, and murmured, "There is no way, let's do it. After all, it is impossible to evade those old guys without some big moves. Even for my status as a director, it took me nearly a year, a trip to the sun, and a narrow escape to get it. In the Kilin Mountains. Yejing looked at the blackened phone screen speechlessly, waiting for Gray. Is this really reliable? To be honest, he was a little trembling. Could the two of them accomplish such a thing? I agreed immediately, but how can I safely lure the beluga back? Moreover, I didn't agree. Oh, I guess the chief has a backup plan. Even if it fails, the demon city will not suffer. Yejing glanced at the huge thing next to him that looked like a hanging painting and felt so tired. How can I escape from the mental control of the white whale? This is a very serious problem. Gray flew at full speed without any obstacles. In just a few minutes, he arrived at the outermost edge of the Kilin Mountains. Less than 10 meters in front of him was the white fog covering the white whale. Should I go in or not? Go in. He gritted his teeth and plunged into the white fog without hesitation. My vision is so bad. The thick white fog blocked his vision. He couldn't even tell the direction, let alone recruit people. Yejing. Gray took a deep breath and shouted fiercely. The sound spread far away. Is this Gray's voice? So fast. Yejing was slightly startled after hearing the shout. He estimated that the white whale had reached the outermost edge of the Kilin Mountains and the distance between them was not far. I'm here. Yejing also shouted loudly. I heard it. Gray's face was happy. He flew over along the sound. Through the thick white fog, Yejing's body appeared in his sight. And behind Yejing, there was the body of the white whale that was as big as a mountain. Gray froze when he saw the body of the white whale. He resisted the fear and flew to Yejing. He threw the bottle of fantasy beast essence in his hand to Yejing. Then he turned around and was about to take off. My mission is completed. It's up to you next. Goodbye. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 203. Chapter 202 Being Eaten. Just as Gray was about to turn around and take off, Yejing held his shoulders and held him down, unable to move. Yejing had a dangerous smile on his face. What do you want to do? Still want to run? Are you dreaming? You've come, let's go together. Gray gave him an expression that looked like he was about to cry. You just asked me to give you something. I didn't tell you that I would go too. He was not as courageous as Yejing. He was still very calm when approaching the white whale at such a close distance. His legs were almost unsteady and he wanted to leave here as soon as possible. Yejing shook his head, let go of Gray's shoulders, and said, after entering the white mist, you can't leave if you want. Gray asked, what do you mean? Can you turn around and take a look? Turn around? Gray was confused, but he still listened to his words and turned around once. Then. What's going on? A scream sounded, and Gray was confused. Before turning around, the body of the white whale iceberg was in front of him. Why was it still in front of him after turning around? Yejing shrugged his shoulders with a look of helplessness. You know? If I could leave, I would have left long ago. Who is still staying in this terrible place? The key is that I can't leave. When you get to the beluga, you are affected by its mental power, and your vision and perception have been distorted. In other words, you cannot leave the beluga. Isn't it? Gray looked desperate and turned around several times in disbelief. However, no matter which direction he faced, he could see the white whale shrouded in white mist from the front. Isn't it true that you won't be able to leave until you die? No, maybe after leading the beluga back to the depths of the Kilin Mountains, it will automatically undo its mental distortion. Then won't we be able to escape? Yejing said. Gray almost cried when he heard this. I went deep into the Kilin Mountains, can I still come out alive? The deepest part of the Kilin Mountains is the domain of all the super-level monsters. Most people can't even get in, and even if they enter by mistake, they can't get out. Yejing did not answer Gray, but focused on the white whale and sighed. Whether we can come back then depends on the white whale. Having said that, Yejing looked at the palm-sized colorful bottle in his hand, which contained the essence of the phantom beast that could attract the beluga. It was open when he was in the magic city, so the beluga could feel it. But now, it should be sealed by this bottle, and no breath is released, so even at such a close distance, the beluga has no reaction. So what should we do next? Looking at Yejing's expression, Gray couldn't help but tremble in his heart, and suddenly shouted loudly, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" "No." Snap. A soft sound. Ignoring Gray's despair-filled eyes, Yejing opened the colorful bottle without hesitation. A strong fragrance hit his face and filled the surrounding area at an extremely fast speed. Yejing shook the opened bottle and said with a matter-of-fact expression, "What are you trying to stop? If you don't open it, how can you lure the beluga back? I said you were turned on so easily. How dangerous." Gray's heart was tired, his whole body was weak, and he was too lazy to complain. Yejing looked into the colorful bottle. Inside was a pure white, flawless liquid, probably only a few hundred milliliters, but just these few hundred milliliters contained the essence of tens of thousands of phantom beasts. It is this huge energy essence that can attract beluga whales to come out from the Killen Mountains thousands of miles away. What happens next? When the aura of the fantasy beast essence filled the area, it spread throughout the white mist in just a few seconds. The next second, a cry that resounded through the sky came out of the white mist, soared straight into the sky, shaking the sky and the earth. The entire white mist was shaken by this huge sound. The ground, gravel, and trees all began to tremble violently. It was as if the sound caused an earthquake. It hurts. When the sound reached Yejing's ears, his brain immediately buzzed, his eardrums in both ears hurt violently, and even his heart stopped beating in an instant. This sound was so shocking. If it happened again, he would probably be shocked to death. Yejing hurriedly blocked his hearing, his brain trembling. Why does the beluga whale's cry sound loud? After the sound, the white mist dissipated a little, and the white whale's body, which was still like a landscape painting, suddenly started to move, as if it came to life. It is said that it is alive. The huge white body seemed to be rotating, and as the beluga moved, the ground shook for dozens of miles around. A few seconds later, the huge whale eye that was 7 or 8 meters high that Yejing had seen before looked at Yejing again. This whale eye is completely different from what I have seen before. It is full of spirituality, wisdom, and endless years. When Yejing saw the whale's eyes staring at him, he couldn't help but tremble all over, and his heart was so panicked that it was so scary. This one eye made him look up. Call. Yejing suppressed the fear in his heart, gritted his teeth, raised his head suddenly, and looked at the white whale. Don't be afraid. Once you are timid, you can't do anything. He was trying hard to concentrate, but he didn't see behind him that Gray was already frothing at the mouth and fell to the ground, having fainted from shock. How to communicate? It is said that high-level monsters have a certain degree of intelligence. Some monsters are even smarter than humans, and there are some special beings that can transform into humans. Since it is a super-level monster, its IQ must be sufficient, right? After Yejing calmed down, he looked up at the beluga. No, it was one of the eyes of the beluga. After swallowing his saliva, he licked his dry lips and trembled. This is what you want. I'll give it to you now, and then go back. Silence, stillness. No one answered. The white whale's whale eyes were still staring at Yejing, or the essence of the magical beast in Yejing's hand. Ha 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 ha, you should give me a reaction. Do you know how much courage it took me to say this? Yejing shook the colorful bottle in his hand twice at the huge whale eye. After secretly cheering, he continued with a trembling voice, Here you go. Take it away. Go back to your own territory. This time, the white whale responded. The dark whale eyes squirmed, as if thinking about something. About a minute passed. Suddenly, the ground shook violently again, and the beluga's body moved again. After a turn, through the thick white fog, Yejing saw the front face of the beluga. That is a face as big as a tall building, and white skin that cannot be penetrated by an atomic bomb. Besides, the huge, deep, and dark whale mouth had opened towards Yejing. No